Welcome to the Mindfulness of Singing, and I'm Denise, your sassy, spunky scientist.
And I'm Tony, your bubbly, big-hearted flower child.
Our podcast features practical tips and tools for a journey of transformation using the healing power of your voice.
Each podcast, we will delve into the mind, body, and spirit connection by interviewing inspirational guests, sharing personal stories, and discussing the most recent scientific research.
Tune in and join our community of mindful singers. Hey, Tony. Hey, listeners. So today is part 2 of Bob Soulliere. Yes. And that name is hard for me because it's French and I want to say Soulliere. But all right. So anyway, and so we're not going to talk about our usual thing because this is kind of a long conversation, and in it are all kinds of great nuggets of mind, body, spirit. So we don't need to add to it. And we hope that you enjoy this Bob Soulliere part 2. Our part 2 of part 1 with Bob Soulliere, the breath coach extraordinaire, who you can reach out to. He has a Facebook tribe called Breathe Your Power Tribe. You can join that and you'll get all kinds of notifications about little things that he does. Like he does some Wim Hof like power breaths at noon. Are they free, Tony?
Yes.
Yes. So
On
that's what I
Mondays.
thought. So he does some stuff like that on Mondays. He has some various other things that occasionally pop up that are of no cost, but also he is not expensive. You can, most people could afford a couple of sessions with Bob. He's one of the most generous people you'll ever meet, and he just loves what he does. And if you get a chance at all to do any breath sessions, or you are curious and want to do that, do it with this guy because he is not only good at what he does, but he's super generous spirit and um, all around great person. So
He's the real deal. Bring on
yeah.
Bob.
Okay.
All right.
Good morning, Bob Soulliere. How nice to have you this morning.
Good morning, Denise and Tony. How are you guys?
We are great. And the first thing,
Good to see you
Denise, we
again.
have to do is give Bob a huge shout out because some great things have happened in his life since we talked to him last. I'm referring
Really? In just a week? What?
Well, there's this little video that a few people have seen.
Yeah, no, I saw it. It's really good, Bob.
Oh,
I thought it was
fun.
great.
It's outstanding. Tell us about it, Bob.
It was great. Well, out of nowhere, basically, CrossFit approached me, but I think it wasn't quite out of nowhere to do a video. They're profiling people that have basically transformed through CrossFit, and my CrossFit box owner, actually, I think they put my name in a hat, and we made the connection. And so, I mean, it's my story of basically going from being in the grind and just not being on prescription medicines and 190 something pounds, and this is prior to a lot of the other stuff, like prior to Wim Hof and prior to the breathing oxygen advantage stuff, just kind of getting back into my body. I didn't realize how absolutely messed up I really was. I didn't until I looked at some of those pictures. Like, wow, I was really bloated, and my back was out. And so I think the story for me, I mean, what matters, and I wrote this actually to my CrossFit group, like my local my MBA CrossFit people, that I'm in the video, but it's really about the community. And in fact, I actually bring this into my Oxygen Advantage work. I'm going to be talking to my group tonight about this, that they made it. If I was just going to some location by myself and doing CrossFit workouts, it wouldn't make the same difference. So it was the others that are there cheering you on every day when you're coming in last, and they don't, like they cheer louder for the people coming in last, and the people that like just partner with you, and everyone who's supporting all the work you do, just showing up is a victory every day. So and I have just loved being able to play like a kid, doing handstands, climbing ropes, trying things that, like, when I'm 56 right now, it's like in your 30s and 40s, you're like, oh, I'm going to get hurt, I can't do this stuff anymore. And so for me, it's just been an awakening, and I just love doing it. So it was like 2 days of filming. We did like 4 workouts in 2 days. I was cooked. Like, okay, here's a 95, just keep lifting that. Okay, lift it again, lift it again, lift it again, climb the rope again, climb the rope again. I was like, oh, okay. And I just kept going. It was awesome. So I did the workout. I also put the mouth tape on just to sort of show you we can do this. We can do it nasal, which I think is huge. And again, a year ago, and I said that on the video, like a year ago, I could not have done this. I could not have done this workout with mouth tape on. So my own journey has been just, becoming more able to manage my breathing, and integrating all these different things, integrating the Wim Hof stuff with the just self-control, with CrossFit, with oxygen advantage, with breathing, and just bringing it together for people. So that's the direction I want to take all these things too. So it was a great opportunity. I'm thankful, and it's out there. Yeah.
So if our listeners want to see it, they can just go to our Facebook page, Mindfulness of Singing. We've posted it on there,
Oh,
and
cool.
it is very inspirational. In fact, I want to tell you that it inspired me. And the part you just said about the tribe, who you're with, really affects who you become.
Huge.
Totally.
Amen to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And when I came back home, and I'd been walking 10 miles, and now I'm in the middle of a country road and there's no place to walk. And so my mother's mindset is there's only one place to walk here, and it's just a few steps from the house, and it's a little cul-de-sac. And we walk it once a day in the middle of the afternoon when it's warm. And when I watched your video, I thought, wait a second, Tony, you've been wanting to go to Poland to do Wim Hof in your shorts in the cold. What are
Yeah.
you doing? And
Yeah.
so, Rob, since I watched your video every day, I've taken 10,000 steps
All
in the
right.
cold in the morning, and I found that I can walk not on the highway, but get off on the road and get off. And I've traveled new vistas after this cul-de-sac mindset. And
Oh,
so,
nice.
thank you. It was
Oh my
kind of a
God.
wake up, a little cold burst of air, like just because your mother won't walk along the highway road to get to somewhere else doesn't mean you can't.
I,
So,
I love that. So okay, so I'm gonna bring us back to Wim Hof for a moment. So I'm constantly revisiting, like, go back to the sources, right? So I go back to the old podcasts with Wim, but he did one with Jordan Peterson, and Michaela Peterson about, I don't know, 2 months ago. And whatever you think of Jordan Peterson, it's an interesting podcast, anyways. And he himself, Jordan, was suffering. He said he like couldn't sit still, like he's like really agitated. And and Wim was talking about how, with the engagement with all these difficult things, that for somebody who hasn't done any of this stuff, it seems so intimidating, like, my God, how do you even start? And so Wim was talking about, when you go to Poland, they basically play. They don't, like, it's not like, oh, this is really hard, we're all going to do this really hard thing. It's like they go out and they have a snowball fight. They make it ridiculous. They make it so you're standing there in the snow in your bare feet, but you're not there to, like, endure. You're there to play. And so if you can look at your walking along your 10 miles or whatever as just a joy, as an adventure, and, like, what the hell, let's just go do this, it's so different. So, and this morning, by the way, my fingers are still white. You can see that, right? You see
yes.
that? Yes. So I just had my hands in some ice buckets. I've been retraining my hands, because my hands have become my limiting factor in the cold recently. And I've noticed that, like, these were becoming, my feet have been great because I've been out walking barefoot, but my hands have not been happy. So I was like, you know what? I got to go into that hard thing. So I actually did the ice bucket this morning and put my hands in there, and I did 3 minutes, and I had to totally reboot my attitude. and just say, this is just fun, because I was not looking forward to it. I really wasn't. I was fighting it. I was like, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. But I also know that if I don't do this, then it gets worse and it gets harder. And then I go backwards and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I get, so that the boundary, it gets bigger and bigger. I'm like, no, 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 no. I must stay. So like, I'm actually 10 days. I'm going to do 10 consecutive days of hands in ice, just to retrain things. Cause I got the feedback. I was like, and the key to it is what you were just saying, Tony, is turning it into fun. It
And
just has to be fun.
I remember when I got out of the ice bath, doing Wim Hof, the exhilaration that you feel, the fear getting in is horrific. I'll own that.
Oh God, yes.
But getting out feels great. And so when I came home from the walk, the first day that I went out, I bundled up, and every day I'm trying to get rid of a few pieces to make it cold. And when I came in, I said, Mother, did you say something? And she said, no, but I fought it. And I said, well, what did you think? She said, you shouldn't be out there in the cold. And so I went over, okay, this is funny. I went over, pulled my pants down, and I made her touch my leg with her hand, and she squealed. And I said, isn't that fun?
That's
I said,
beautiful.
Mother, that's not what gives you a cold. It's a virus, it's not
That's
being
right.
Yeah,
that
no, yeah.
I
That's
feel better. I
I
feel
still hear
better.
people saying, "You better put on a coat. You're gonna
yeah,
catch a cold." I'm like,
that's
"What
awesome, man.
century are you from?"
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, go back a few more centuries and nobody was worried about it. It was only thanks Victorian England
Yes.
for coming up with like all these limits on what our bodies could do.
Well,
Like,
that's because they didn't know anything about medicine, and they were just making shit up as they went along.
they
I
kind of
know. Let's put a few leeches on you. Make you
leeches.
boil.
Hey, but hey, leeches are back.
Yeah, I
Leeches are
know, I know, I know, I know. But you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you're anemic, lady? Well, let's take
yeah,
some more of your blood.
that's true.
Mhm,
That's interesting. That's an interesting one too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
anyway, they were
Uh,
making it up as they went along.
but
So
yeah, hey, put your hands on my cold butt because it's wash it, pow. And look, I'm
yeah,
okay.
I'll do cryotherapy all day long, all day
Yeah,
long. Like I have no
I
problem being in a cryotherapy tank for 4 minutes. I'm perfectly fine with that. But there's something about ice in a water and me submerging in it. I
yeah.
just can't get there.
And
But
once you're,
listen, we need to tell our listeners because with
yes,
they're right at this point they're going, what the hell are these
where
three
are we
people
going?
talking about? So let's talk about first of all, tell us about
Hmm.
um oxygen advantage in terms of like what is the what could you lead us through an oxygen advantage breath, like a typical um
Totally. Yes.
yes, let's
So,
let's
I mean,
let's
first of
start
all,
there. I think we talk about it in the first episode a little
yeah,
bit. I think we talked about it. But why don't you give us an
absolutely.
example? Mhm.
So, well, first of all, with Oxygen Advantage with Buteco, which Buteco is sort of the foundation for Oxygen Advantage, and
Right.
Patrick, McCune is the person that founded both of these, or started those two clinics. Uh, is it's light, slow, and deep (LSD). So it's a light, slow, and deep breath. It's through the nose, and it engages your diaphragm,
Mhm.
and because when you breathe through your nose, you actually breathe through your diaphragm. It's like it's a connection, and so it's really a breath that ultimately would be so subtle that no one can even tell that you're breathing,
Right.
and that even you wouldn't even tell that you're breathing. But in the beginning, I think the most important thing is simply to close your mouth and inhale, so that your intercostals, your ribs sort of expand outward to the sides, and you're breathing through your nose, and it's just a light, slow breath. And ideally, at rest, it's 6 breaths per minute, thereabouts. So it's a very subtle breath, and it's what it isn't is it's not a chest breath, it's not shoulders engaged breath. It's a 360 breath, in your at your diaphragm. So
Right.
how it looks like nothing because you
Mhm.
can't see it. It's like
Right.
the invisible breath, as Patrick will say, hide your breathing from me. So that is actually the breathing that you would do. Now, when you get into exercise, obviously the amplitude is going to increase. The size of your breathing will increase as you go into effort, but it's still through your nose consistently. And your mouth, as we say, it's, for biting people, but it's not for unless you're at the max effort, you're an elite athlete and you're sprinting, then you go to mouth breathing for that last 10%, 20% of your effort. But the goal is to actually use your nose as the throttle for the intensity of your exercise. So if you're out running right now, if you're out doing or CrossFit or whatever, not swimming, forget swimming, but anything on land, don't swim like this. Actually, I'll talk about swimming in a minute. We'll get to swimming, but anything like, anyways, you use your nose as the throttle for the intensity. So when you're out there, breathing hard, you might be like that, but it's still through your nose,
Right.
and that's the key. And so when you begin, you might not be able to go very hard. You might be just walking with nasal breathing, and that is totally okay. You might take a few weeks or even a few months of nasal increasing the pace, but what you want is to get close to that threshold where you want to open your mouth. And actually, you want to find your edge. And it's interesting. I'm seeing the edge behind my head. I see the boundary there. So imagine you're sort of oscillating between mouth breathing and nose breathing as you're out there running. You're like, okay, I have to go to mouth for a moment. Okay, now I'm going to close my mouth, back to nose. So you become aware of your breathing, and just becoming aware that you're even mouth breathing can be a huge thing, because then you can start to control it. So that's really the breathing that we do. And I could explain some of the training if you want me to also.
Well, I mean, I think singers are going to go, well, wait a minute. I cannot breathe through my mouth while I'm singing,
Mm,
some big Nessun Dorma or whatever, some,
yeah.
or at least classical. Now,
Okay.
pop and jazz and musical theater may be able to breathe through their nose a little more, but
Okay.
classical are not trained in that way. We're trained to breathe like you're talking about, but through the mouth.
Okay.
And I firmly believe that we have been taught to overbreathe,
Yeah.
and that breathing through the mouth all the time and taking in the entire room of air,
Yeah.
it causes singers anxiety and also makes them very oxygen dependent, and so they become less efficient in their breath the more they do it. And
Yeah.
so the idea, Bob, behind that
Yeah.
uh, LSD breath
Mm.
is to what? Get the person not
Yeah.
oxygen dependent, and explain that.
Yeah. So actually, you want to have better oxygen exchange. So when you breathe through your nose, you take your, first of all, your carbon dioxide. The reason that you breathe is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide reaches a level in your body, and then you have to breathe. So it's a tolerance of carbon dioxide. And so the more you can tolerate carbon dioxide, those fewer breaths you will need to take, and the slower your breathing will be overall. And the oxygen that comes into your body does not get to the muscles, to the cells, to any part of you unless there's carbon dioxide present. So the red blood cells have to have carbon dioxide with them, like it's a little taxi, and the oxygen comes in, and the taxi is the hemoglobin, the part of your red blood cell that holds does the exchange. And if there's not carbon dioxide in that taxi, the oxygen can't get in. It just comes right back out. So you're not actually getting any energy into your body. You can breathe all day, but without the carbon dioxide, it's not going to actually exchange. So when there's carbon dioxide, it gets into the taxi, the CO2 leaves, and the oxygen then travels to your cells. And so the reason that matters is that when you breathe through your nose, you get far more you have far more resistance. Your nose has so many reasons that it's the right way to breathe. It warms the air, it moisturizes it. It's with nitric oxide. You have nitric oxide production in your nasal cavity that sterilizes it, which nitric oxide then expands all your vessels and re-exchanges the blood in your lungs. So it's so many physiological reasons. Once you go to mouth breathing, you're basically in fight flight, as you said, Denise. So that's the reason that it's really not optimal by a long shot. You're basically putting yourself in a deficit consistently when you're mouth breathing. So we can all maintain it, over time. For a duration, but you're basically using, fermentation. You're basically using anaerobic respiration a lot when you're breathing through your mouth. So you're putting yourself in a much more demanding, low time frame situation when you're mouth breathing. It's not meant for duration. So and I know with singing, you've got your physiological constraints. So I know that anybody who does anything, that if you talk a lot in your job, if you teachers and so
Right.
on, I mean,
Exactly.
a couple of hacks which I know you guys are aware of. And one is drinking carbonated water, just getting carbon dioxide back in. And you'll see Patrick doing that.
Mhm.
When he does his teaching, he's got his carbonated water, his fizzy water with him, and he's drinking it because he's talking for hours and hours. So gives you a chance to sort of recover a little bit of that.
Mhm.
Um, and then he'll stop talking in between. And I do this too when I'm doing any kind of presentation. Between sets of talking, I'll just not talk. It's like, guys, I'm going to be quiet for 10 minutes and just start to rebuild your carbon dioxide a little bit, regain it. So uh, for any performance, any duration, that nasal breathing is key to sustaining it. Anybody can sprint. You can sprint through anything once, but can you do it 5 times in a row? Can you do it 20 times in a row? And that's when it starts to wear you down. So yeah, that's why I think and what you guys are doing is incredibly athletic, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
mean,
Yeah.
But
incredible.
just to clarify, what we were talking about before this
Mm,
wasn't oxygen advantage. It was Wim Hof, which is a totally
Right.
different
Yeah.
yeah,
breathing process. The
Which
cold and everything is
good point.
associated with
Yeah,
Wim Hof, not with oxygen advantage, just to clarify.
true.
So,
No,
right.
thank
So
you.
that was going to be the next place I
Mm,
go. So how could singers tell us about Wim Hof a little bit because
yeah.
um it's a different kind of breathing.
Yes.
Now I will say that when I do Wim Hof, I don't release through my mouth. I do it all through my nose.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just I
Yeah.
get the same effect.
Yep.
me too.
So
Totally.
anyway, but
Yeah.
go ahead, Bob, and tell us
Yeah. I mean,
about it.
so, and as Wim would say, get it in any hole you can. So don't even worry about that part.
I
It's
like him.
yeah.
Right
That's
up my
the bottom
alley.
line, man. It's a much different story. So, I mean, Wim Hof breathing is meant for a moment. It's not for how you're supposed to breathe for performance. It's meant to give you a contact with your nervous system and to allow you. And frankly, it knocks down inflammatory responses. If you have autoimmune inflammatory stuff, it is huge for that. But it is really intended to give you contact with your nervous system so that you are able to then do other things that are difficult. And you actually put yourself into a bit of an emergency state for a moment because you're super ventilating. So you're breathing the big breaths, and you're getting rid of your carbon dioxide and then holding on an exhale, which then because you've blown off your carbon dioxide, it takes longer for it to build back up. So you can hold for quite a long time and your oxygen levels start to go down, but you remain calm. You manage it. So you're learning to manage under difficult circumstances. And that's really the Wim Hof training, is learning to manage and learning to feel how you feel under difficult circumstances, and then using your mind to stay calm. So you're putting yourself into a difficult situation for a moment, and you're actually triggering a ton of adrenaline, which is the master reset switch for your hormones. When you have adrenaline going, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter about digestion, reproduction, blah blah blah. Who cares, right? Because survival is the only point at that point. So you hit a big adrenaline response. All your cortisol just goes phew, and goes out the window for a moment. So you reset, and it's like coming back when you turn off your computer when you have too many windows open. Turn it back, turn it off, and then it comes back, and everything's working again. So your nervous system kind of resets itself, and it trains you to stay calm. And then under those difficult circumstances, when your oxygen is low, and you're like, "But I'm okay. I'm okay. Really, I'm okay." And then you take that mentality and you go into the ice or any difficult thing, and you control it with your breathing. No breath holds in the water. No breath holds in the
I was
water.
going to ask you if when you go in the water,
Mhm.
if you practice the Wim Hof breath or if you do
No,
some other kind of breath. Oh, okay.
no.
All right.
So
That
no, it's a
makes sense to
calming
me.
breath.
So
Yeah,
ladies, any of the women that are listening
yeah,
that have had children,
yeah,
basically Wim Hof is kind of like doing Lamaze.
yeah. Yes, 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 yes.
It's very
Absolutely.
much like that. And
And
and yeah.
it's interesting because it also does, it attenuates your pain response. So it makes sense that they're the same kind of process, because you become less responsive to pain as you do this breathing. I mean, it's not something you can do constantly, but it does train you to be less responsive to pain. So that's actually a huge benefit
Yeah,
of that
and
too.
pain is mental in many ways, and people have proven it because they've had surgery with no anesthesia or any of that.
Yes.
And just a quick little story. I I sit over a computer or a piano all the time, and I get really tight in my neck and in the back, in the top part of my shoulders and my back. And sometimes I get these tension headaches that creep up because of it. And I see a chiropractor, and they help me most of the time. But sometimes I try to go to see a masseuse, and there's a little masseuse at the mall who I swear beats the shit out of me every time I go, like for an hour. And when I tell her it hurts, she's like, "Oh, okay." Oh, she
Make my
gets in there
elbow
with her
hurt.
elbow, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and the first time I went, I could hear the person next door, and they were more cursing than I do. I mean, like, I was like, wow, those are some words. Anyway, I mean, and I'm thinking, what in the world have I gotten myself into? But I recalled, some of the Wim Hof stuff of
Mhm.
pain is in the mind, and
Yeah,
don't dread the minute you're in, don't dread the next second.
yeah.
Think about the fact that this is temporary, that it's going to be over soon. Although an hour is a really long time to have somebody beat the crap out of you. But anyway, I um I just kind of used that mindset, and I was able to get through it without cursing a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Brava.
No, it
brava.
definitely makes a
Yeah.
big difference to get the mind.
Oh, it's everything.
Of course, I was also breathing.
Yeah. I mean, so the
But
analogy is like your mind, your brain is a dog, and
mhm.
an untrained dog is a mess, right? And it attacks things and it gets you into trouble. It does bad things. But it's the same dog trained well is your best friend, and not just a friend, but like your hugest asset, because it does all the things you need it to do. It's brilliant. And what's funny, it's like like taking that even further, humans and dogs really co-evolved. We actually couldn't even be where we are right now. There's a great episode of the Neil deGrasse Tyson Cosmos series, that like the new version after Carl Sagan, about how we co-evolved with dogs, and the dogs guarded the perimeter, and we fed them, and they allowed us to build civilization. Basically, without them, we're too vulnerable. But we built this symbiosis, and it's the same wild dogs that can then be trained to do something that's valuable, that allowed us to organize ourselves. And I think that's really our minds too, in the same way. It's like you take that same wild thing that can, obviously we all experience it every day, right? People's minds out of their control. But
Absolutely.
it's the same thing once you take control of it. And the way into doing that control is through, unforced, controlled uh, things that are difficult, hormesis, things that are slightly beyond your comfort zone, that train you to be able to tolerate those things. And then your comfort zone expands, and you realize you can do more, and your world gets bigger, and you're like, you know what? I could turn this massage into play. They get their elbow in my butt, and it's you know what, I'm just gonna turn that into some, it's like in my, on those muscles in there, and I'm like, all right, whatever, I'm just here for fun, I'm here for fun. So the more that you can decide that you are going to play with life, instead of life is going to do stuff to you in general. And so if you look at a quick thought on this, people coming into 2021 saying, I hope 2021 is better to me. Fuck that. Make it better. Don't wait.
Exactly.
Don't wait for things to happen to you. Oh my God. If
Exactly,
you feel
Bob.
like you are that, if I have one message for this podcast, it's like, please don't wait for the year to be good to you. The year is a thing. It's not going to be, it's just a thing. It's like, just please go do the things that will make it good. And it doesn't mean that, obviously COVID's still out there. People are going to get sick. People are going to suffer. Yes, the suffering will still be there, the pain will still be there, but you can decide what you make of it. And you can go, you can get small and crunchy and dark, or you can say, you know what, that wasn't great, but there's more to life than this one bad thing. And I
Bravo.
swear we need that, because we're all being invited to get so scared,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
not going to help anybody,
Yeah,
The
turn
actually.
off the
emotional,
news. It's a huge
Yeah,
waste and
turn on
colossal
the
waste of
news.
your time for one
Goodbye
thing.
television. Yeah,
And don't
goodbye.
wait for life to happen to you. I
Right.
always, I'm a firm believer in happening to life,
You guys are doing it, man. You guys are
Oh,
doing it. I
thank you.
love this. Yeah, you really are. Seriously. You guys are like charging right at it. It's fantastic. So do what they're doing, people.
thank
Do
you,
this.
Bob. That's
Yeah.
because we get to chat with beautiful people like you.
Because you're
Mhm.
making it happen.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is my posture for 2021.
Yeah. Ooh, ooh, right out of the gate.
Bring it,
Out of the
bitch.
gate. Great. Yeah.
Well,
Even with
I
my,
had
even
a
with my,
similar thought, but not exactly the same words, but
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Check
come
that. You can
on.
even do
I've
that
heard
when
her
your
cuss.
fingers are white. See, they're still white. See, I got some work to do here.
They are
But
white.
by the way,
Yeah.
one thing you can do, and I'm not doing it right now, is if you ever do have, like, for people that, with Raynaud's, just look at your hands. If they start to get white, just spend a moment and just actually look at them, but look only at them, and you can begin to bring the blood flow back to them. Right now, I'm not focusing enough to do that, but you can do this. And I've
Mm.
done this in my workshops. People are like, my hands are white. Yes, they could be, but I'll just look at them. Give them the love. Literally give them the love and attention. I know that might sound crazy, like giving your hands love, but yes, your body, yourself, right? And that's health. So
Mhm.
we can do this. It's in our potential as humans. And so, bringing it back though to Wim Hof and the purposes of Wim Hof versus Oxygen Advantage, if I just tie those together.
Please.
So yeah, so the Wim Hof stuff is really, it's like the gateway, the sexy gateway drug into breathing, because it's fun and it's exciting and everyone's like, it's like a big roller coaster ride, and everyone comes out and they're like, woo, I did this great thing, and it's awesome. But it's how you breathe for a moment for a desired effect. Whereas Oxygen Advantage or Buteyko is really for life. Is for 99% of your life, 99.5% of your day. It's just light, slow, deep, functional breathing, and that's the big difference. They both have a purpose, um, but there's a big difference between them. And so for people going forward into their day, into work, uh, that's when being aware of your breathing, nasal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, light, slow, deep, and just ask yourself, awareness, how am I breathing right now? Maybe you don't even change it, but just become aware. How am I breathing right now? Just to check in, the check in, the check in. That will begin to give you the space to change things.
Right.
So that's what I would say
And
on that.
so for the singers out there, I'll just tell you one of the things that I do with my clients and students is that when they first begin to learn a piece, I will ask them to really slow it down and breathe only through the nose. Just
Okay.
kind of take it out of its beat, take it
Yeah.
out of its timing, and sing the phrase, breathe through the nose, sing the next phrase, breathe through the nose, take in only what you need,
Mm.
only what you've depleted yourself of. Don't, think that you have to take in 3 times the air now that you've sung a phrase. And I try to give them this sense of calm and a sense of, oh, I have way more breath than I could ever need for these phrases. And then we begin to put it into time, and we begin to I have them sing, breathe through their nose when they have those moments that are slower so they can take a slower breath. But when they breathe through their mouth, they're like, well, I don't need to take in the whole room. I just need to take a quick little catch breath here.
Yeah.
And I've got more than enough air, and I don't need to have my mind telling me, because 9 times out of 10, when a singer runs out of air, it's the mind going, dear
Okay.
God, you should breathe. It's the brainstem
Wow.
telling you, we've built up way too much CO2. You got to
Yes.
breathe. You got to breathe.
Yes.
And
Oh, that's
when
great.
in fact,
Yeah.
you don't. And if you get used to not having so much oxygen and so little CO2, when you
Mhm.
learn to build that up and you learn to become less dependent on that oxygen,
Yeah.
then you have a tolerance for a much longer ability to sing a phrase without that little reptile brain going, you better
Yeah.
breathe, you better breathe.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
it's
would say, Denise,
hugely beneficial.
it is, and actually, I would flip that and say you do have enough oxygen. It's actually you have enough oxygen. You're just building up carbon dioxide,
Yeah.
and so I go back to my little image of like balance, where you learn through both of Wim Hof, Oxygen Advantage, Buteyko, all the breathing stuff, where you make growth is being able to stay comfortable, relaxing on the edge of discomfort. So you're like on this, so you do feel the carbon dioxide build up, and you're like, oh yeah, I should, I need to breathe. And if you, as we train people in this breathing, you learn to tolerate that sense that you need a little more air, but you know that you're okay. This is again using the dog to take control and to say, yes, it's uncomfortable, but I know I'm okay. I
Mhm.
can relax through this. So that's the training part. You don't want to have to learn this when you're in the middle of the fight. You want to learn this before the fight and train this way, because you're going to fight the way you train. And I call it a fight, but I mean, you perform the way you train.
Absolutely.
So if you can learn to, as you, Denise, that was perfect. Like if you can be calm when you feel that sense of, air hunger, we call it air hunger, then you're actually exchanging more oxygen at that point, because you've got more
Mhm.
carbon dioxide. You're getting more into your body. So it actually will improve your performance.
Mhm.
So becoming familiar with that discomfort and actually making friends with it. I say sometimes, bow to your edge. It's there, and just acknowledge it. And then go a little further. It's like, okay, yeah, I see you. And you know what? You don't own me, man. And I'm gonna go a little further. And you're okay. Your body's okay. I promise you, your body is okay. It is your head, right? It's your
Absolutely.
thing. Ah, we're in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Well,
It's a mind
yeah.
game.
So yeah, it's a mind game. And you have to play that game incrementally. So there's no judgment here, because you got to be where you are. If you are, triggered at an early level of feeling breathless, then you are. That's not bad, but there you are. Now let's move it a little bit forward, right? Every day a little bit more, so that then over time, weeks, months, years, hey, you're alive. You might as well move forward anyways, right? What are you waiting for? So it might take a year. So what?
Mhm. Mhm.
But you will expand, and then you become more comfortable. So yeah, that's a huge point, because we're not as in trouble as we usually think we are. We can
Yeah.
do more. Yes. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
biggest
totally.
liar is yourself.
It says what?
I said the biggest liar is yourself. The lies
Yeah.
you're telling yourself that you.
God, Tony, that is it. That's really it. Contact with yourself. So okay, it's not a digression, it's actually related. um I find that people who end up in trouble, sort of, in a panic situation, typically, and I don't mean at a moment, but like in life, you're like constantly in an alarm state, um, that you don't have contact with yourself. You've lost contact with yourself. And I think contact with yourself is contact with your breath. It's contact with how you feel on the inside. And you don't know what to do when things get tough. And really, truly, the training that we do is to put you in contact with yourself. So you feel what you feel, so that when things do get harder, you have a sense for where you're at. You know what your breathing is, and you know what your internal state is. And you're like, yeah, yeah, this isn't fun, but I'm not going to die either. And I think that just informs how you live life overall. So it certainly informs singing, I'm sure, too. Like then you can just,
Oh yeah.
you're able to stay present
Oh
through
yeah.
this thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Very, very.
it's absolutely true. Mentally tough singers,
Mm,
resilient singers are usually the ones who go out and have careers. I know lots of
okay.
really like world class talent that
Mm,
aren't singing because they don't have the mental
yeah.
and resilience for it because it's tough. It is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
So just to kind of wrap things up, we have some singers that listen to the show that are also athletes and athletic. And um wouldn't you say, or maybe this is true or maybe not
Mm,
true, but there are a lot of world class athletes that have switched their thinking about breathing through the mouth and are now beginning to breathe through the nose
yes.
more,
For sure.
and that this is something that athletes are beginning to embrace.
Yep.
And it's basically just like, in terms of oxygen advantage, it's basically just like going into high altitude training. And
Yes.
most athletes know that, right? But this is your way of bringing the mountains to you.
Very true. Yes. So, I mean, and that's the other piece of oxygen advantage is simulating high altitude training. So, using hypoxia, which is breath holds, driving your oxygen levels lower to induce an increase in your red blood cell count, and to also tolerate that. Again, it's willpower, learning to become familiar with lower oxygen levels, but your body actually begins to change. Your blood chemistry changes so that you're able to process oxygen more efficiently. And that is done through uh, efforts running, walking with breath holds. So it's a hypercapnic hypoxic training. It's high carbon dioxide, low oxygen training, simulates high altitude. And that's one of the great insights that Patrick has brought to the training world, which is that in the old days, you had to go up to the mountains and train at 10,000 feet or whatever, and then come down to the ocean to do your competitions. They, train high, compete low. And, but we can simulate that with our training. So that's the upper edge of our work.
Right.
And you have to first get a baseline of control over your breathing, and then we will take you higher over the line so that you can then get. That's truly the advantage. So is being able to have that high altitude simulation at sea level, and it makes it, that's the killer app, I guess, for this.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So
Yes.
I'm gonna give blood next week. So I should do this work a whole bunch before I go give blood. So I have lots of red blood cells.
Well, you'll have a lot of your hemoglobin will be, there's this thing called hematocrit, which is like the percentage of your blood cells that have it's a density of hemoglobin measurement. And actually, so you probably will, yes, if you do the high altitude simulation, the breath holds, you will end up with a higher hematocrit. And actually, that is probably a good time to donate blood. You don't want to get it too high. Actually, your hematocrit can get too high. So you got to keep an eye on that. If you're one of these people that has clotting issues, then you definitely want to keep an eye on your hematocrit in general.
Right.
But probably I'm not telling that, that's not news to anybody that has clotting issues. But yeah, if you increase your blood cell count, that can definitely contribute to that. So yeah, you're right, actually, Denise. Yeah, cool.
It is
Do some
cool.
do
I'm gonna
some
work on it as soon as we get
hold.
off.
Yeah, yes, yeah. This is awesome, man. Wow. Well, I mean, I am so curious to know what you get for feedback from the singing community on uh, all these ideas and how they get applied.
Yeah.
And
It's mixed because
yeah,
the singing community is very interesting in terms of teachers. They, we've been taught this classical singing, I should say.
hmm,
We are taught this very antiquated, what people would say proven
yeah,
way of training and way of breathing and whatever. Although if you ask three teachers what is breathing for singing, you will get three different answers. I guarantee it.
oh, okay,
Especially if they haven't been to the same school or didn't study with the same teacher, because I see it all the time
hmm,
in what I do.
Yeah.
But um, pretty much everybody knows and believes the basics, right? You take air in, you try to get it low, you try to get it into you get the diaphragm involved. But it is the taking in and releasing of air is where I kind of part ways with that
Mhm.
classical. And I didn't used to. I used to teach it the way all the books talk about. And, Tony and I both have pedagogy degrees. So
Mm.
we know the pedagogical model. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm saying it doesn't serve our singers well. And what I mean by that is that I know so many singers who have anxiety issues, who have stage fright issues, who have
Mm.
um, you know, kind of um mindset or maybe even emotional or mental issues when it comes to getting out on a stage
Yeah.
and or singing a recital or that sort of thing, and they cannot call on their breath to calm them. Their breath makes it worse.
So the thing I just reminded of is cadence breathing. So um, for panic breathing, for panic in general, uh, cadence. I use cadence breathing, and that's part of oxygen advantage also.
Right.
To breathe according to a cadence, and ideally 6 breaths per minute, but which then increases your heart rate variability, which increases your body's ability to respond to whatever you need. And it also just the mind is looking for a pattern. Your brain is looking for a pattern. Give it a pattern, and it settles everything.
Right.
So for people that do have stage fright, doing like a minute or two of cadence breathing, and fives and twos or box breathing. Honestly, it almost doesn't matter. It does physiologically, I guess, but mentally.
Demonstrate cadence breathing for us, Bob.
So just if you guys right now, just take in. Let's start here. Just two normal breaths. We'll just breathe in through the nose, breathe out, and breathe in, and breathe out, and hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe in, and breathe out, and breathe in, and breathe out, and hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe in, and breathe out, and breathe in, and breathe out, and hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. In, out, and in, and out, and hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. That's cadence breathing. So we're just breathing according to a cadence. Now, typically, if I was doing this, I would have slowed you down. I would have actually brought you into contact with your breathing for a moment to become aware of your breathing. Before we started, I would have said, note the slightly cooler air coming in through your nose, slightly warmer as it's leaving your nose, and note the sensations. We would do a moment of conscious breathing first, just becoming aware of your breathing through your nose and bring it to your nose. And then I would have then started the cadence of, and we call that's fives and twos. It is a pattern. So it's just two normal breaths, and then exhale, hold for 5 seconds, actually, but 4, 3, 2, 1, and then two normal breaths. And you can also do that as you're walking. You could do that with 5 steps. Instead of 5 seconds, just hold, exhale, hold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then inhale, exhale, hold, 5, 4, 3. And what that does is it just settles your nervous system. It also increases your carbon dioxide tolerance a little bit because you're increasing a little CO2 in your body on the exhale hold. So it calms you that way also, because carbon dioxide actually calms you, as it expands the blood vessels open, your blood flow increases, your body warms up as you increase your carbon dioxide. So all of that, a couple minutes of that just sitting before you do a performance will settle your mind. And it also is something you can use in the middle of a difficult situation that no one has to know that you're doing it. You can just do a couple of breaths and an exhale, hold, and just hold and let the carbon dioxide level come up for a moment, and then a couple more breaths. No one needs to know that you're doing it, and it will help bring you back You can't maybe do it in the middle of an actual performance, but if you're between things, if you're feeling hepped up, you can bring yourself back that way. 1 minute, just one. I kind of go around like this. This to me is a clock. Just one time around the clock. 1 minute around there, which should come out to about 6 breaths in a minute if you time that. Should come out to about 6 breaths in that minute, which is significantly slower than we usually breathe. We're usually at like 15, 17, whatever. So if you get down under 10, um, it will really give you a sense of calm. So actually, to your performers, before you go on stage, it's a really great thing to do right before you step out there. It will settle your mind. Give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. That's a big piece of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I almost
Yes.
went to sleep because that's how I
Oh,
put myself to sleep at night. Like,
magic.
we
I
keep this
had
up,
that
I'm gonna
effect.
fall asleep right on the floor
That
here.
effect on people
They're gonna be
sometimes.
like, "Where'd Denise go?" She's asleep.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Anyway,
awesome, guys. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
thank you, Bob. Thank
Oh,
you for giving us 2 sessions with you. You're our first person that we've been able to
all
have
right.
part 1 and part 2. So
It's been, yeah, this is so much fun. I just love the hybrid, the way you're bringing things together. There are so many disciplines in this world, and, breathing is a key to any of them. Um, it's, I have a colleague who's a Wim Hof instructor who's also the head of I think he's the head of the performance side of the fire department at Oakland, California. So he's been there for ages and ages, and he uses breathing also with like these people that are first responders to bring them back. When you're in a firefight and literally on a with a fire mask on or whatever they call it. I'm sorry, Aaron, buddy, I got that wrong. But anyways, whatever that, when you have all your equipment on and you can't make big mistakes. Your life is on the line, and so is other people's. Your breathing is like everything, and so he trains them to stay present with their breathing. You use up fewer tanks of oxygen. Literally, you actually can stay in the fight longer, and it comes down to what you can control. So with these performance things, singing, firefighting, police, SWAT work, whatever. It all comes down to what you can control, and what you can. This is your onboard control. It's your breathing. So yes, bring it forward into the world, man, because it's all we got. So thank you.
yeah, yeah. Don't
Ah,
breathe, you die. Yeah.
true. Eventually.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's great. It's so helpful, I think, for us to kind of like delineate between the two breath works,
Yeah.
what they would both be for if you were a singer
Yeah.
and you wanted to use both, and what's the big deal, right? So
Yes.
thank you, Bob, for
Yeah.
clarification
Oh,
and for
totally.
leading us through that. So are you gonna be in is it snowing where you are right now?
No,
Oh,
no, no,
what is
no.
it down
It's
south?
fun. It's not that much fun here. It's not cold enough,
Oh,
guys.
down south, it's cold and
Oh,
snowing. So
wow. So
you
I
just,
will say, so just quick anecdote. This isn't an anecdote, but the one thing that my training is leading into, just put it out there for your people, English Channel swimming. Did I tell you about this yet?
I
So
saw it.
this is the new thing. So I'm not swimming the English Channel, but I have begun working with a group of open water swimmers, and we are launching a project, an effort, basically a mission to Mars, to get people to train for the basically 2023. I think swimming crossings of the English Channel. One is doing a double crossing, and they've asked me to work as their cold and breathing and mindset coach on this
that's
in whatever
great,
way.
Bob.
And
That's
the
awesome.
crazy thing about it is that my goal is to, like, people get across the English Channel and they do it, and there are a lot of successful swimmers. It tends to be a really devastating, difficult thing, and you walk out of you get lifted out of the water, and you don't even know who you are when you come out. You're like, what happened? What happened? And I want this to be, and this is back to what we're talking about, self-control and self-awareness, that we're going to train so that they have experienced it 1,000 times before they do it. So the envisioning part, so that they know what this feels like already, and then when they do it that day, it's like they've already done it, and they have enough contact with their breathing and themselves that they know themselves, and they're able to come out of that, 7, 10, 24-hour swim which is unbelievable, that they're still intact and they're okay. It won't be fantastic, and they'll be exhausted for sure, but that they're, it's like you get to Mars, you go on your mission to Mars, and you land and you come out and you're like, okay, yeah, that was really hard. I'm really freaking exhausted, but I'm not like completely devastated. So that's what I want to do with these people.
What's the temperature of the tunnel?
Anywhere from 50 something, 58 to 64 is typical. That's the temperature. And by the way, it's
not quite an ice bath.
I'll tell you what, I swam in 67-degree water for about 45 minutes a while ago, and I was beat. That was hard.
Yeah.
So to do that for
yeah, that'd be brutal. Sure, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. That temperature is a lot, and it's just a cap, goggles, bathing suit. That's it. No, one bathing suit, not two. It's funny. That's unusual.
And it's not a wetsuit either.
Not a wetsuit. So, anyways, that's my new, not new, but it's a project, and I'm just really excited about it. And it's going to bring together a lot of these pieces, because mindset is the other piece of this that makes a big difference.
Oh yeah.
And so what you guys are doing is huge in this too, bringing the right mindset to this incredible athletic undertaking, which, and there are so many things I've never done long open water swims, and I've never tried opera singing either.
You never tried to be a classical singer?
And let me tell you,
I don't recommend it.
I think the classical singer is probably the scarier one. But when this is all over, and we can all gather together.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I can't wait.
I want us to set a date to do an ice bath with Denise, because I want to be there when she does it, because she's going to be ready by the time it's all over. And she said she would do it in the summer. So Bob, we're going to set a date. Can't wait for all three of us to get together to enjoy the ice bath. And on that note, we're going to sign off before Denise gets to say no.
In the
You got it.
summer.
All right, take it away, man.
Summer.
Love you guys.
All right.
Love you too. Thank you very much. Bye, Bob.
See you guys.
See you. Thank you so much for listening. We are very grateful that you joined us today.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe, write a review, share it with a friend.